Today, I want you to look at your RV's sticker a little differently because three companies build almost everything rolling down the highway right now. And between them, they own just somewhere around 85% of the RV market. So when I tell you a recall hit your neighbor's rig, don't assume it doesn't apply to you just because your rig has a different name stitched into the upholstery. It might be sitting under your floor too. This is the Safe RVing channel, and today's episode is about something I don't think gets talked about enough in this industry. Sure, others have covered recalls, and that's fine. We should all be talking about it. The more we talk about recalls, the better, the more information gets out there. But I want to focus initially first on how consolidated our industry actually is. That could be good, that could be bad. I'm not here to pass judgment on that, but I want you all to be aware, especially if you're a new RVer or if you're just looking to properly select or choose your first RV. I want you to understand why that matters. That's important. So we're also going to do something I think that is long overdue. We're going to separate what a recall legally means from what most people think it means when they see one, because those two are very different animals, and mixing them up either makes you panic, freak out over maybe a leaky window seal, or shrug off a potential fire risk because we maybe conflate what a recall might be. So we're going to get into that. All right, let's start with ownership, because I guarantee most first-time shoppers don't know this going into the endeavor. One, you walk into a dealer, right? You go onto a lot and you're comparing 5 or 6 brands. You think you're doing your homework. What you're actually doing most of the time is comparing different trim packages built by the same 3 parent companies. Thor Industries is the biggest umbrella in the business. Airstream, Jayco, Keystone, Dutchman, Heartland, Highland Ridge, KZRV, Cruiser RV, DRV, Integra Coach, Crossroads, Starcraft, Venture, and since 2020, even Tiffin Motorhomes rolled up under Thor. It's not some kind of weird conspiracy theory. That's just a public brand portfolio. Now, that doesn't mean Thor is managing day-to-day design and engineering and build decisions and quality decisions at the factory floors. That's not what that means. So I don't want to confuse you. What I am saying is that they have all joined the same family. So if I'm being fair and transparent, every RV brand has its, or manufacturer has its issues or can have its issues. Some have more than others, yeah, historically. Some have better like customer feedback scores and brand loyalty. Some do have a history of or are known to be prone to quality issues and concerns. You're going to have that, sort of like automobiles, right? And then you're going to have folks that are just convinced that I'm not going to buy anything other than this particular brand. Not here to talk anybody into or out of any of that. So Tiffin Motorhomes is going to be run and managed in a way that maybe Integra Coach might be as well, differently. But what I want you to understand is that Thor is the largest consolidator, if you will, in that portfolio. Okay, the second one is Forest River. This one surprises people every time that I've talked to RVers, even just friends and folks that I meet when we go camping. This is the one that surprises most people. Forest River has been owned by Berkshire Hathaway. Yet that's correct. Warren Buffett's company, since 2005. Under that umbrella, you've got Rockwood, Wildwood, Salem, Coachman, Shasta, Palomino, XLR toy haulers, and there's a list of others as well. A few of those names showed up in this very same week's that I'm recording this recall batch, right? They were filed as separate campaigns, even though they share one parent company. And then there's Winnebago Industries, which isn't just the Winnebago brand anymore. They bought Grand Design for $500 million, Newmar for $270 million plus stock I think it was 2019. And they're even in the boat business now with Chris Craft and Barletta. So here's a fun wrinkle for the family tree. When Winnebago bought Grand Design, some of the Grand Design's own founders left and started an independent brand called, that's right, Alliance RV. So even the independent names in this business often have roots in the same three trees. You add it up, and the three companies control roughly 9 out of every 10 RVs sold in this country. Again, that's not inherently bad. Scale gives manufacturers buying power and consistency, but it means the brand name on the front cap tells you a lot less about who actually engineered your rig than you probably assume. That brings us to our next point. The parts that are under the floor, or the floor itself, even inside the rig. Here's where it gets more interesting. And honestly, this is the part of the industry I wish every new RVer would understand before they sign anything or buy anything. It's not just the brands that are consolidated, it's the parts. There's a company called Lippert, right? Also known as LCI Industries. And if you own a travel trailer or a fifth wheel built in the last decade, there is a very good chance a meaningful percentage of what's holding it together came from them. We're talking about chassis, axles, suspension, slide out mechanisms, windows, doors. Lippert builds over 3,000 axles a day out of more than 90 facilities worldwide. And their travel trailer and fifth wheel component business alone pulled in $1.65 billion last year. That's not just a parts supplier. That's a foundation the entire industry is built on top of. I mean, figuratively and literally, I guess. Here's why that matters for safety. When a chassis defect or a slide out failure shows up, it's very often not a brand X problem. It is a whoever used this supplier's part in this build window problem. That's exactly why you'll open a recall notice and see several brand names that sound completely unrelated to each other tied to the identical defect. They didn't all independently make the same mistake. They all used the same upstream part. And this churn isn't slowing down. It's happening in real time right now. In this week's recall batch, Midwest Automotive Design Vans, a brand most people associated with, REV Group or Rev Group, they showed up filed under a company called Alliance RV LLC. Meanwhile, REV Group itself just got acquired by Terex for $9 billion. And REV's actual motorhome factories in Decatur and Bristol, Indiana, are expected to be sold off separately from that deal. Ownership of these brands is moving faster than most consumers, and frankly, faster than a lot of dealers, I should say, not most, can track in real time. The takeaway I want you to sit with: don't just ask, what brand is this? Ask, who actually built the chassis, the axles, and the slide mechanism underneath this brand? Because that's usually the more useful safety question. Those are the things you need to be concerned with when you're looking at an RV. And again, in the context of safety, understand once you get to a certain point where every chassis in the showroom came out of the same factory, built by the same manufacturer. Every axle, same. The electrical systems, the slide controls and components, all from the same manufacturer. Then you're probably just looking at features, aesthetics, cost. If you're looking at it from a safety standpoint, you have to understand which units have fundamentally different parts. And if you can get down to that nitty gritty, that granular level, you can have a meaningful conversation with folks in the showroom. Now, maybe some sales folks don't even know this. I doubt it. I think they do. But yeah, if you're looking at 3 rigs, let's just start with travel trailers, and you're saying, hey, look, I want to know about the axle, the ratings, and I want to know about the frame, the chassis, all of that good stuff, and all 3 of them are identical, and you accept that, then you're gonna have to move off of that real quick. So that's why I would start with the foundation. Start with those basics before you start getting into, oh, well, this one's built better. This one's better. It's higher quality. It costs more. The fit and finish feels better. And it all came out of the same factory. So you can even follow, there's RV techs and channels. I'll name my favorites maybe in another episode, but I don't want to name drop here early in our in our production run of videos here. But and look, they'll tell you they find stuff wrong, the same things wrong with high end, $500,000 motorhomes, and that they do in $30,000 travel trailers. It can happen. So get a good inspection once you've got that foundation, under you, that you have this basic understanding, right? That's key. Now let's get to recalls, and this is why I wanted to start with that foundation, like where are we starting from? One, they're probably all going to be the same or similar, right? They're all going to come from the same manufacturer or parent company, and maybe they do make decisions on because of that scale, right? They're leveraging the economies of their scale to consolidate parts and acquiring all these parts for a lot less, and all of the other little brand names underneath that parent company are using the same components. So again, I digress. At the risk of repeating myself, don't fool yourself into thinking that this one is better than the other one I looked at, when they're probably all using the same parts, because we've consolidated that under one umbrella company. All right. So how this plays into recalls, we're going to get into a distinction here that most, that I would say it this way. I think this is the most practically useful thing in this entire episode, because I hear 2 things get conflated constantly. Forums, online forums, Facebook groups, even dealers who should know better. Yeah, you'd be surprised how many times we hear this from dealers. There are 2 completely different things people call a recall, and only one of them is actually a recall in the legal sense. The first is a federal safety recall through the NHTSA. That's the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. This is mandatory. It's triggered when a manufacturer or the NHTSA determines there's an actual safety defect or a failure to meet the federal motor carrier safety standard. Think fire risk, loss of brakes or steering, mislabeled weight rating that could get your rig overloaded, tire information that's just wrong, mislabeled weight rating that these get an official campaign number. This week alone, I'm looking at 6 of them here. Numbers like 26V35 2000, 26V38, quadruple zero. I'm not going to name all those zeros. Good night. It's like no rhyme or reason for some of these. And then 26V3920000. Only 3 zeros on that one. Look, every one of them is searchable. You can search by VIN on the NHTSA.gov website. The law requires the manufacturer to mail you a notice. That could take a while, right? By the time you get one of those in the mail, that recall, you've been riding around with that recall, I guarantee you. The repair has to be free. This is the system that was built under the Tread Act. It has real teeth. Don't get me wrong. The problem with this is, I mentioned one, the mail. They notify you by mail. So make sure that the manufacturer has your information when you buy this rig or this unit. And then also, something a lot of folks don't consider is the network of repair shops or facilities, that maintenance facilities that your dealer has, or the number of them that they have in a region. So let's say I'm from Southwest Ohio, so we're kind of limited with dealers, but maybe I drive all the way up to Michigan, right, for a dealer, because they have a particular brand that they carry, brand name that I want, and I buy it and I drive it back, and then I get a recall. How many of these dealers locally to me can work on that brand and can do these repairs? So one, you're going to get a recall, and it's going to be in the mail unless you're staying up on this. There's many podcasts like this one that we hope you continue to rely on, but you get something in the mail and then you call and actually try to schedule. How many units do you think are on the road? And remember, we just talked about this. It's probably not just your model. If the component that got recalled is universally used across 85% of the RVs on the road, what do you think's going to happen with the wait time for you to get in on a repair? And what does that mean for your upcoming trips? That's something you've got to think about, right? All right. So that's an overview of an actual recall from the federal government. The second thing, and this is the one people usually mean when they're like ranting online and complaining online about stuff. It's a voluntary quality or customer satisfaction campaign. Delamination, an appliance that keeps failing, cabinetry's coming apart, a workmanship issue the dealer should fix under warranty. I remember I had one on my travel trailer. It's the one I still have. I really like this I am looking at new ones, but I really like this travel trailer. Simple. I'd like to keep it simple, but there was a bolt that was coming up on the floor panel underneath the flooring, right? And it was poking up, and it was right in front of the fireplace, right where you walk, and I was afraid it was going to tear the linoleum and the laminate flooring. And it was right after I bought it. I noticed this thing just from vibrations, just one bolt that holds down the flooring panel, and it's not plywood. It's got good subfloor. I like the construction on this one. It's an ultralight, it's aluminum frame, which doesn't always mean stronger, by the way. We'll get into those in future episodes about safety for those things. But I like this rig. Took it back, and they denied it. They denied it, and they said, "Nah, we're not going to fix that. It was declined or denied." I don't understand that. I bought it, and this bolt's sticking up out of the floor, so I had to actually. Luckily, it was within proximity. I know I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but it was in proximity of a floor vent, so I removed the floor vent. I could kind of lift the linoleum. Ended up stretching a little bit, not too bad. It laid back down pretty good, but I had to use Loctite, and apparently, and this was recommended to me, and apparently the Loctite stained, pushed out through the top when I got my hex, my Allen wrench in there, because it wasn't like a typical bolt that had a a Phillips head screw or head or anything, but I was able to get that tightened down, and it pushed out some Loctite, and it was red, and it stained through the linoleum. So there's this spot now on the floor. It's just cosmetic. We use a rug anyway, a runner in there, and we can't see it. But look, stuff like that, just stupid stuff like that, where you go and do your walkthrough, and it doesn't matter without fail. We call them factory fixes, right? You got this laundry list of factory fixes that you're going to take it back and drop it off, and they're going to keep it for a month and a half to fix 5 or 6 little things that need to be done. Things like when you shut the cabinet doors over the sink, maybe, and the cabinet doors are mismatched. That kind of stuff. We had a damaged door on the pantry. It was damaged. So it wasn't plumb, wouldn't shut right, that kind of stuff. You'll have all of that, man, and it is not fun. It's not fun. That's why, you know, think about when you go to buy an RV. If you're buying it in the spring, early spring, and you think you're going to go take it out, maybe buy it in the fall after camping season so they have it for a while and they can fix this stuff. But anyway, that's my quick little story. Though that is what I'm talking about, the difference between these two. Okay? So these never hit the NHTSA radar, right? There's no campaign number, no VIN to look up, no federal reporting requirement at all. It's handled entirely between you and the dealer. The dealer is your go-between. Now, you know, my father-in-law, when he bought his Class A, he bypassed the dealer. He got tired of messing with them. He contacted the manufacturer directly and got somewhere with them. Doesn't always happen that way, but that is an option for you. But make no mistake, you have to bring it to their attention, right? Under whatever warranty terms that specific brand offers and that you have. And I'm going to be honest with you, the coverage varies widely between brand and even by which dealer you're standing in front of and where you bought it. All right. The distinction does actually matter beyond just being correct, like as far as technically correct. It's not semantics. That distinction is important because conflating them can cut both ways, and both ways are dangerous. So if you treat every warranty gripe like a federal safety recall, you're going to panic over a leaky window seal, or, you know, while it's annoying, never going to hurt anyone technically. We'll get into mold maybe in another episode, but look, that's the difference. If you go in the other direction, recalls happen on everything, it's probably nothing. You could shrug off a notice about a fire risk or a brake failure that deserves immediate attention. I mean, it could impact, some of these recalls impact the drivability, towability. You could have a do not tow order on some of these. Well, how do I get it there? Yeah, good question. You got to get it there, right? You got to get it to the manufacturer, or to the, I'm sorry, to the service, to the dealer, or service garage. You got to get those done. So one of these categories has legal teeth and a paper trail. The other is a customer service conversation. So know which one you're having. So here's what I want you to actually walk away and do, because I don't do theory only episodes. I really want to focus on actionable advice or information. One, go to nhtsa.gov right now and look up your RV by VIN. Regardless of how loyal you feel to the brand, whatever's on the front cap, the campaign number is the only thing that matters here, not the badge, not the brand. Two, before your next purchase or your first purchase, ask the salesperson out loud on the record what chassis and axle supplier this brand uses, and whether that supplier has had any recent safety campaigns tied to other brands. If they don't know the answer, this tells you something too. Now, I don't expect every salesperson to be that informed, but They should be. That's why you have to do your homework. Number three, learn the difference before you complain or panic, right? That distinction is important. A federal safety recall is a legal category with a paper trail, a deadline, notification requirements. A warranty issue is real and worth pursuing, but it isn't in the same category of risk. It doesn't deserve the same emotional register. That's the key. That's that's simple. Now, not everything warrants that emotional response. Yes. However, you should be concerned with the first category, right? Government mandated recalls. That's something significant that could happen. Um, these customer satisfaction warranty type of notices, maybe it's the manufacturer of an appliance or something that the RV manufacturer relies on and uses, and they're going to replace or repair it through their network of dealers. Stuff like that. You got to pay attention to those. Yes, you should keep your rig up to date on all those repairs and fixes, right? You want to keep it safe, enjoyable, and it also affects the value of the rig. Everyone talks about how, these are depreciating assets, and that's true. Nobody buys an RV as an investment, okay? First of all, but the RV that you do buy, make sure you go in with this basic understanding. I hope the graphics helped you understand a little bit more about the RV industry. I hope I didn't create any confusion. I know I'm going to get folks yelling at me. The online RV world, from especially RV owners, can be as contentious as your Ford and Chevy argument, right? You notice I didn't say Dodge. See, that's I did that on purpose because I got a couple buddies that have Dodge trucks, and I like to poke fun every once in a while. So, look, that's it. Three companies, one supplier ecosystem for the most part, and there's a huge merger with Lippert and the other, the probably the second leading manufacturer of RV parts and components. They're going to merge, so it's going to get even more consolidated, not less. And then of course two very different meanings behind one word: recall. So look, stay safe out there. Let me know what you think about this episode, and I'll see you next time.